G'day caravanners. Today we're going to look at some of the different fridges you might find in your caravan. We're going to start with an older style three-way fridge, then we'll jump into a newer style three-way fridge, and then we'll jump into a compressor fridge. And we'll try and explain the differences between them as we go. The first one we'll look at is in a little Jayco Lark, and then we're going to jump in this classic, and then we'll find a compressor fridge. So we want you to be adventure ready when you pick up your van, and if you've got your van already, we'd much rather hear that you're having a good time having an adventure, not worrying about your fridge so much. These are probably the smallest fridge you'll find in an older caravan or camper trailer. It is a traditional three-way fridge, so it'll work on 240 volt, gas or battery power, which may be off your car, it may be off your caravan itself. There's easy ways to find out. So on this exact model, if we start on the right, it's your thermostat. You'll get very comfortable with where you set your thermostat for where you want things to be frozen or not frozen. The dial on the left is your power selection. So if you're on power, AC or a power plug symbol, that's for when you are physically plugged into the caravan park or your house outlets. That'll work on 240 volt. It is probably the cheapest way to run your fridge. If you're on gas, we're assuming that you are free camping. You need to have your gas bottle open. You need to make sure you've got gas in your bottle. You can select gas, hold in the primer button and start clicking the igniter button. And you'll see the little red bar move. So that's a free camping thing. I'm sure you can see that red bar moving now unless you're colourblind, in which case you'll see it vanish effectively from the white area. If you're on DC, which is the third mode on a three-way fridge, it's either running off of your caravan battery or it's running off your car battery, which could be via your Anderson plug, it could be via a 7-pin, or it could be via your 12-pin. Different caravans are wired up differently. It's important you know about your actual caravan, not your mates, because it might be different. Off there are multiple spots. The main thing to remember with the three-way fridge is 240 volt or AC, if you want to cheat. It's not alternating current, it's at caravan park, is when you're at the caravan park or you're at home and you want to get it cold. The battery mode, or DC for dragging behind your car, is actually just going to maintain its temperature. So it's not going to get your things cold if you just chuck them in there and then go on a Friday afternoon. Get it cold first. The other trick with gas is fire it up before you go camping, because then instead of you sitting here clicking this button for 10 minutes, making lots of noise and looking like a bit of a goose because you haven't opened your gas bottle, you check it and it primes the line. If it still won't light, back your thermostat off a little bit and open your fridge. It'll think that it's got to work a bit harder and it may light up a bit quicker. Most of them have the instructions in the bottom of the fridge, which of course is hard to read once you've had a couple of lemonades. Always brace your fridge and freezer when you're not using it so it vents, and make sure you turn it to an off position. It's important you get familiar with your fridge because you don't want things to get hot and funky when you're away camping. I'll now leave this one off because we're not using it anywhere. All right, now in this little video montage from fridges, we're now looking at the Dometic automatic fridge. So it's a bit bigger than the last one we looked at. It's also a fair bit easier to use. Turning it on and off is primarily the big round button. You hold it in for a couple of seconds, the fridge will beep at you and it will turn on. And you'll see the display light up. Hopefully that's in vision, it's a bit hard today to tell. It's the same concept as the other three-way fridge. On 240 volt, it's running because you're plugged into a 240 volt outlet. On gas, it's on gas because you're free camping, you don't have access to power, and battery mode is running for traveling. The battery on this, when it runs on battery in this Supreme Caravan and Leader, different to other brands of van, it's physically running off the van battery. It needs a trigger still through the 12-pin to tell the caravan that it's in travel mode and it's attached to your car. If I wanted to, I can tap this button and it's how I change my temperature. It's also how I can set the fridge to either automatic mode, which is going to find its own power supply, or change its temperature. So I can dial it colder or warmer. If I go into the screen after that, this one will show me that I've selected auto, which is automatic function. It also lights up the other icons, which is power, battery and gas. And if I dial down to the return key, if I'm plugged into a power source, it will go to 240 volt power. Because it's not here in the yard, it's gone to gas mode because it registers there's no 240 volt power. If I attached it to a car, it will then choose battery. The other really clever thing about these fridges is if your car is wired up properly for it, when you turn the car off, the fridge will go into pause mode and come up with a little petrol pump symbol. That's telling us that the fridge isn't looking for gas while you're at a servo filling up with juice, because sparks, fuel, not a good thing. After 10 or so minutes, it'll go looking for gas because it assumes that you've pulled up for a Chico roll. The same rules apply with this fridge as the other three-way fridge, the manual three-way. Make sure it's on a power source to get things cold, either 240 or gas. Check your fridge before you shut your door, because you want to make sure it's running, or you want to make sure it's off. And in this case, we can chock the doors open, which forces me to make sure it's also empty, and then I can leave the van and lock it, and I know my fridge isn't still trying to find something to do. But being an automatic fridge, unless you really want to play hard at it, leave it on automatic. It is the easiest setting on these fridges, because it's one less thing you have to do when you get to camp. And to turn it off, we just hold the button in and it will turn off. If it ever comes up with a red box on the screen, which if I try and get it to gas it will come up with, it's telling you there's an error. If it comes up with a red box, you can reset by holding the button in for a second. It'll beep lightly and then start its lighting cycle. If you do that 3 or 4 times, it locks you out, because you're trying to do the same thing over and over and over, and more than likely your gas bottles are shut. If it does lock you out, turn it off, go around, check your gas bottles, walk around, get a beer out of the fridge, come in and light your stove. That'll prove that you've got gas. Then start the lighting sequence again. Your fridge will go under gas and away you go, you're set. Other than that, leave them on automatic and your life is easy. Now we'll go find a compressor fridge and see if that makes a bit of sense too. All right, we've got a compressor fridge to show you now, the last in the series if you like. This is more of what the fridge is that might be in the back of your car. It's running on battery most of the time. This one has a bypass, so when you're plugged into 240 volt power, it chooses power to save your van batteries. It's the same control panel as the other one. Holding the button in will either light up the display or turn it on and off. What will look different on the display is this one showing up a battery picture. If it shows up the power cord picture, you know you're plugged in and your fridge is going, oh, okay, I'm plugged in, cool. It's also showing blue frosties on the symbols because I've just turned it on so the compressor's working nice and hard. If I'd had this on for a while and dialed the temperature down a bit, so I was getting a bit warmer, the blue will go back to white to indicate that the compressor's not actually doing much. The same with the other Dometic fridge. If it ever throws up a red box, which is normally some sort of a power surge issue at a park, you'd reset it by holding it in for a second, or hold it in for 2 seconds or so, the screen turns off. The same concept when you're bracing it open for storage. You spin the little thingies out, hold your doors ajar. A lot of people go for these nowadays because they've got so much battery power in their Caravan. The solar's always working, so it's keeping your batteries charged, which is keeping your fridge running. These will keep your margarine and your ice cream at a more constant temperature if you have to drive a fair distance. So from Adelaide to Mildura, the ice cream will still be nice and hard. In a 3-way fridge, and if it's 40 degrees, because it's only maintaining temperature, your ice cream might get a little bit floaty by the time you get to where you're going. So that's why a lot of people go for these, and a lot of people just don't like the idea of gas in their Caravan, so it saves you gas for other things. So the other thing that's beautiful about these running on battery power, the solar's charging the van batteries, the fridge is running off the van batteries, which means when you're driving, it's not sucking power out of your car when you're going up those hills because it's all on the Caravan. There's enough solar punch and indicate your fridge cold. If you've got your Anderson plugged in, it is topping up your batteries if it needs to, but it would be a very minimal draw. If you've got the Red Arc system on board, you can keep an eye on that stuff and you know that you're not chewing power anywhere else. The other brand of fridge that is mainly out in Caravan world are Thetfords. The control panel changes a little bit. How they're wired up might change on the brand of Caravan you might have if you're not fortunate enough to have a Supreme or a Leader. But it's also a good idea to get familiar with your fridge and your controls. There are background controls in the back end. Generally speaking, we'd suggest you leave that alone unless you're right into your tech, in which case you're probably not looking at these videos so much anyway. But we can talk about those at a later stage in a more in-depth chat about fridge safety measures, kids locks, stuff like that. All right, a slightly different model of fridge. It is a 3-way fridge, so it has the same concept as before, 240 volt for power sources, gas for free camping. Battery mode on this one is physically going to draw power from your vehicle battery via the 12 pin. So as we mentioned before, depending on the brand of the Caravan, the wiring might be slightly different. The other thing that's a little bit different is the control panel. Turning it on and off is on the on-off button. That then lights up the LED screen. Same as the other one though, A is automatic. Because we're not plugged in, it's looking for gas. Once that screen's lit up, I can do things like change the temperature, or I can manually change its power source, same as the other fridges. But again, most people will leave it on automatic, and what will happen is this is trying to find gas, and there's no gas in this Caravan at the moment. It will come up with an error code, and in the interest of time, I will tell it to go to battery. Now, it's not going to work on battery because we're not connected to a vehicle of any style. This is how it's going to show you an error in either battery mode, 240 or gas. The code may change, but this will flash continuously and the little light down here is red. If I go back to automatic, it's looking for its power source again. So once it's realised it hasn't got any gas, it'll come up with its error. A bit the same as the Dometic version. To restart on gas, you hold the button in, turn it off, turn it on again, it'll start its lighting cycle. Same sort of thing though, you do it too many times, it says, nah, you're doing something silly, I'm going to lock you out. One other thing that's a little bit different with the Thetford fridge is way down there is a travel lock that you can basically it's a manual swing over to make sure your fridge door's not going to swing open at all while you drive. If you are using it, make sure you remember, because otherwise you stand here pulling on the door and wonder why you can't get into your fridge. Same rules apply. Before you lock your door, check your fridge, because you can see this little blue light from the doorway in most vans, and you know your fridge is working. If it's on automatic, you know it's doing what it wants to do. There's its error code, it's thrown up to say I've got no gas. I'll turn it off now, because otherwise it's just going to sit there and flash at us and be annoying. So here at Adelaide RV, we want you to be comfortable camping. So if you've already got your van, be comfortable with how your fridge works, the style of fridge it is, how long you need to cool it down before you use it, and is it going to use power off your car or not. If you're interested in buying a Caravan, a fridge is a big consideration about how you want to use your Caravan. Do a fair bit of research, ask your sales guys. If you're at a caravan park already and you're up for conversation starters, ask people what fridge they've got and what they like. You will get every single different opinion in the world. And then you've got to filter through the muck and find the one you like. The easiest way is to come in and see us in the yard. We can have a fair chat and show you some of the different styles. If you've got questions about fridges still, by all means give us a buzz, pop into the sales yard, we can show you the different sizes, the different styles, because there are different power considerations on the compressor fridges. The different brands have a different draw on 12 volt. The consumption of gas is fairly minimal, but it is important to get an idea as to how long you could go free camping on gas, how long your batteries are going to last with your style of fridge. All those sort of things come into consideration, so it's not just a quick decision, it's worth the research. Come in and have a chat, we can step you through the process, and we can tell you which fridges we use and what we like to use and why. A lot of our guys use a compressor fridge in the back of the car because they like their beer to be at a different temperature to their bacon and eggs in the Caravan fridge. Well, that's what they tell us. I think it's so they got more beer on board and they can leave the other fridge packed. But that is one consideration to have, are you travelling with more than one fridge? So again, it's about power, it's about what you're going to use to run your fridge and where you're going to go travelling. If you're always at a caravan park, you're going to be on power, so it really doesn't matter so much. But when you're free camping is most of the consideration, and the length of trips you plan on doing, especially if you go in summer, so your fridge won't get warmer as you're driving basically. Again, if you get any questions, give us a buzz. We're always online. Tom spends his day online looking for feedback, so shoot us a message. We'll talk a bit more about specifics if you need us to. I'm about to go camping, so I will see you all later.